Welcome to the Iraq Football Podcast, ladies and gents. I'm your host, Hassanin Bilal. And what can we say? It's been yet another eventful 2 weeks for the Iraq national football team. A lot has happened, and we're here to discuss it with our two wonderful hosts. First of all, Hassan Osama, welcome to the show again.
Yeah, always a pleasure getting on the show, despite the situations with the national team, games, level, all of that stuff. But getting here and talking about it, it's always great.
And of course, none other than the legend himself, that is Justin Meram. Justin, what an honor it is to have you here. And Sebastian.
Thanks for having me. No, it's an honor to talk with you guys finally. It's been a long time coming. So,
well, we have been planning this for a long time. Just circumstances have made it a bit difficult to coordinate, but we finally have you here, and we're very excited about this. Justin, today I'm gonna throw a lot of difficult questions your way, and I want you to be completely blunt and completely honest, and we'll have a very interesting discussion about this. Now, I'm gonna start off with what kickstarted the whole event of getting you on our show, which is your tweet yesterday. So for those who haven't seen it, I'll just read out very quickly. You wrote the following. You said, last month I came out and spoke the truth. Big reasons why I left. Dick and his staff think they are bigger than Iraq. Time and time again, they get it wrong. Were chosen based off their name, and they came with a big ego. I am sad to see the results, and also that Gilo didn't play 1 minute. So, Gilwan, can you elaborate on what your thoughts were yesterday as you were watching the game? What was going on through your head?
yeah, it was. We'll say goodbye to Sebastian first.
Bye, Sebastian. My salama.
Look, for me, watching the game, it's, I look back, obviously I'm in my coaching course with the U.S. Federation. I'm in my final month before I pass for my B license, which is the second highest license, coaching license in the U.S. So, as I'm playing, I'm doing education for coaching. So, I watched the game in a little bit different light now as I've been in this course. And so my thoughts are, we're playing against a Syria team, no disrespect to any country. Every match is always difficult for qualifications, and I played in them. But when you're playing against a Syria team, you can't come out in a defensive formation and be afraid that you want to come in at, his comments were to come in at half 0-0 or not to be losing. We have to be strong against a lesser opponent, and we have to take advantage of those games, especially at home. And so you put out a back five lineup and you play very defensive, and you get scored on a set piece. Guys falling asleep, they play a quick set piece and they score. And fortunately we got the penalty. For me, I don't know how much of it was a penalty, but we're fortunate to get the penalty and to tie the game. So you're playing against Syria at home, you play in a back five, you play very defensive, very scared. You come out, your only real chances are off the counter. I think Bashar had a couple. And then you go into the Korea game, and I understand you played in this formation in Korea in the back four. And you got a result, so you think you're going to go the same way. But now you go out in a more, aggressive lineup against Korea, who is the stronger opponent, and you get smashed 3-0, and you have no real clear chances. And my thought is, that's maybe the game you absorb pressure, right? They're going to have the bulk of possession, and you maybe sit in the back five and you're very strong defensively. And then with, Ali, who's very fast and very strong up front, you can use his speed when we didn't have him the first game. And then against Syria, you got to be aggressive. You got to get 3 points. Those are the games you got to get 3 points. And I just think they got it both wrong. And obviously 6 games under Dick and Petrovic, and you got 0 wins. And I'll be honest, you got Lebanon. UAE isn't UAE from 2015.
Yeah.
With Omar and the other striker. That's a very weak UAE team. So looking at some of these results, and we're playing these games at home, for me, I just find it that I don't think they really know what's going on, and my short time with these coaches, they're giving out the lineup with the jersey numbers. I mean, that just says it all for me. I couldn't believe what I saw when we're giving out names by using numbers, and I think it just shows that they took the job for all the wrong reasons, in my opinion. They don't die for the country. No chance. It's impossible. They saw Iraq had a possible chance of going to the World Cup, and they said, let's grab it and maybe we can do something. They're not going to Iraq. Head coach isn't going to Iraq and watching these players. We're experimenting during the most important time of qualification. This isn't the time to experiment with guys that have never even played on the national team. You have to get it right. You have to understand what's at stake, and you got to put out the best players possible. And for me, it's a bit unprofessional.
Right. I completely agree with everything you've said, and I completely see where you're coming from. But I want to throw a difficult question your way. Don't you think that part of the problem is bigger than Advocaat himself? We have like a systematic problem within the Iraqi FA, within the country, within the way the whole team is managed, and the problems are bigger than Dick Advocaat. And no matter who we bring in as manager, they're going to face the same struggles. You've been in Iraqi football a long time. You'd have a much better idea than most about this. What are your thoughts on this?
I can't speak on the federation and what goes on because I'm not knowledgeable on it. I'm not going to speak on what ifs. I'm not going to speak on, maybe not. I don't know. The federation has treated me with a lot of love and respect. So I must, reciprocate and be thankful for what they've done for me with the national team. So I can't speak on, those situations. But if you bring a player like Jilwan, for example, to the national team, and you're the head coach, and you play him not 1 minute, and you know his quality, and you know where he plays, for me, I don't think that's a federation problem. If you look in the game against Syria, Amir, quality player. We need to score goals. We need creativity. We need someone who's going to make the final pass to the Bashar, to Ali. He doesn't play. I don't think that's a federation problem. Or he comes into the game and changes the game. UAE game, similar situation. Goes very defensive. Very scared-minded mentality going into these games. You bring in Amir again and a few other changes. You get 2 goals. You end up tying the game, giving up 1 late, putting Hammam at left back. I don't think that's a federation problem.
Absolutely. But don't you think the federation problem comes in from the fact that when Dick Advocaat comes in and he's supposed to be a new coach, he's given existing players that have been in the Iraqi national team that for maybe about 8 years now, the players are outdated. They've outgrown their stay with the national team. I don't want to mention names to disrespect the players, especially with you being here. There's some of your former colleagues, but there are players in the national team that shouldn't really be there. And Dick Advocaat, when he first came and joined the national team, he's not going to have been asking for these individual players, but they would have been presented to him as, all right, this is the national team. And this list would have come from people within the Iraqi FA. Don't you think that presented part of the problem?
It's not about a Hammam, it's not about Ali Adnan, it's not about Bashar, it's not, none of those players. There's no disrespect. Everyone is good in their own way. Hammam is very busy, very strong, he can run a lot. You have to find a position for him. Ali Adnan, he's very experienced, You know, he's played in big leagues. When he was playing with Vancouver and with national team, he's very good. Obviously, he's been without a club. It's been a little difficult. Every player, Bashar is a very talented player, one of the best local players, in my opinion. But you got to figure out what works with all the players. My thing is, when you go to the national team, the issue I find is you go and it's like it's divided and everyone's competing and it's not a home brotherly love feeling, right? There's a lot of animosity between Mukhtarabins, the locals. They're afraid. Are we coming in to take their spot? They've been around the longest. Coaches have to create the environment to be fun, to be alive, training is enjoyable. Everybody's flying in, right? So would you want a camp to prepare for games to be fun, not so serious, not so strict? Guys, you know, wear whatever Iraq shirt you got to wear. If you want to eat at this time, you know, obviously have certain, you know, as you get closer to the game, certain schedules. That's how it is in a lot of national teams. I have friends that play for USA. I have friends that play for Slovakia. I have friends that play for Lebanon. One of my closest friends I played college with, Sunni Saad, who scored against Iran. I asked him, what is your camp like with the Lebanese national team? So, oh, the coach is great. I think he's, I don't know, maybe Croatian. I don't know where he's from. He said, all the players, it doesn't matter where they come from. Everyone comes together. Everyone has a great time. No animosity. He puts the best players. A lot of them are guys from the outside because he knows the level, right? He doesn't sprinkle in 1, 2, you know, Mukhtarabins, and then it thinks it's going to change. He understands that these guys are playing at a high level. You bring 9, 10, 11, 12 of them. You bring in the local players. Because think about it. We might be the only country in the world that pushes away majority of the guys playing outside.
But
think about
this Advocaat though. This is I
think
keep
about this a second. But he can make the choices. When I was there with him and Petrovic, they didn't want to speak to me for 9 days. I was there, 9 days. For why?
Okay, so
I know I wasn't in camp. I know, but think about it. You have to understand when the guys from the outside come in, you have to treat them like they were born and raised and have lived there in Iraq their whole life. But it's a feeling of like we're not welcomed at times. And it's not so much the players, it's the environment that is created. Right? And that's what we have to understand is if there's 25 guys that are playing outside, why don't you bring all 25 for a friendly? How many countries do it? I'm very close with the national team coach for USA, right? He was my manager for 5 years, Greg Berhalter. If they have a friendly in January here in the States, you know what they do? All the guys playing in MLS and maybe 2 guys from Europe that, you know, that maybe play in Sweden or something, their season's off, they'll play in those games. And there might be a game in Europe. And it's all the European-based players. It's a friendly game, right? So we have to start getting creative and thinking, okay, if it's a friendly game coming up, we're going to invite nothing against anybody. This isn't the final roster for World Cup qualifications. Let's bring in all the guys from the outside. Let's bring a couple guys that are 16, 17. Let them get a feel for the national team. Guys that are playing all over Europe. It's just a European-based game with a few local players because you're going to need, you know, 30 guys for, you know, every game. And then maybe you reverse it. You have a game in Dubai and it's in November. And, you know, everybody in Europe has games. It's all the local players. Let's see how now you're starting to get, you know, ideas and you see how the levels and this guy's getting a lot of minutes. But what happens is it's always the same guys, the same core of 15, 16, and then you sprinkle in random guys. Then you never get a feel. Give Joan 2 games, 90 minutes. Let's see how he does. Maybe he plays a game at right wing. Next game he plays as the 10, right? Oh, it's this is the issue, is that there's so much going on that we don't think outside the box. We don't think, how do we progress the national team to the next level, right? How has Saudi Arabia jumped us to where they're at? They're strong foundation, strong youth. How has Japan, Korea, Australia, who, if we go back 10, 15, 20 years, we were parallel a little bit, you know? And now they're going like this, and I think we're dropping. The core, the foundation, the coaches we bring in are so important. This is what people think they don't realize, is you have to want this job to better the country. And it's not about your ego. It's not about, oh, I coached this country and these players. It should be, how do I make this group so strong and so together, and no BS going around the side. And instead it's split down the middle, and you see it. And for me, it's the coaches that are involved, it's the players that are involved. You know, I think it's just the way the Iraqi people are at times. It becomes this, you're going to take my spot, well, I'm not going to make you happy, right? Instead of, this is for the greater good of Iraq.
Well, Justin, you've made a lot of comparisons with other kind of nationalities and other international teams and whatnot. Let's compare like for like. So you're saying this was the environment when you were here with Advocaat as manager. How was this different to, for example, your time with Katanich and your time with Radi Shnashir? How was the environment different?
There was a respect between coach and player. Katanich, for the first few years together, was fine with me. You know what I mean? It was until, you know, I had situations back home that I thought were important and I needed to be, and, you know, agree to disagree. Radi, same thing. They tried to bring out the best in us. They didn't really degrade us. They didn't really say, oh, he's not good, he's not good. How do I bring out the best? If I'm a coach tomorrow for the Iraq national team, and let's choose, give me one name, any player. Give me one name.
Let's talk about Ali Adnan, given that what's happened.
Okay. I am going to do everything in my power to make Ali Adnan shine. Okay, people say right now he's not the fittest. Okay, if he's not the fittest, Ali, I need you to be more defensive. I don't need you overlapping. Conserve your energy. I need the best out of Ali Adnan for what he can give for 60 minutes. I give him a plan. Hey, you're going to go 60, 65. We're going to get fresh legs. Give me all you got, 65. Be more defensive. And at times, you can go forward. I have to give every player on the field the best chance to succeed. I can't just throw out guys and say, hey, go play against Korea and, oh, you know, we lost 3-0. You know, the guys aren't good enough. No. This is Iraq. This is what we have. So whatever you have, how can you make it the best? How can you put guys in their certain positions to shine the most, right? If we just sit back, and then people can blame on the first goal or second goal. Well, when you absorb pressure for 80 minutes and you play so far back, what can you do? My thing is, how do you bring the best out of each player, each position? Not after the game, so, oh, we're not good enough, and yeah, you know, Korea is better. Yeah, they are. They are very good. But it doesn't mean that we're not good enough to stand toe-to-toe with them.
What would you say was like in terms of individual performances? Talk me through what you saw yesterday against South Korea in that game. Who was good? Who didn't perform very well, etc.
Get away from the Korea game. It's a difficult opponent. I'm not saying, I don't want to go into details because of the Korea game, because it's one, you didn't really have the ball. Possession is what, 75-25?
Fine. Let's change the question then.
Let's go.
Under the Advocaat, how have you seen the player performances across his time as manager? Which players have you thought have actually done well? Which players do you think have suffered as a result of his management?
Your question is about the players. That's the problem. It's not about the team.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is because I want to see if there are any players who have actually stepped up under his new management, in your opinion, at least. Because there are some that I think have done okay, but they're few and far between.
And even for those like who are doing better, like, is it despite the situation, or is it Advocaat facilitating?
I don't like to look at the individual player. I'm looking at as the collective.
Okay, fine.
Are we?
I'll bring in some thoughts, Justin, and then you can tell me what you think. Okay. Now, there's been a lot of talk of people talking about Advocaat shouldn't have been brought in, or it was the wrong time. You might even agree with this, and I'll give you a chance to tell me all your thoughts on this in a second, regarding how we should have kept Katanic as the manager, despite towards the end of his career at Iraq, in my opinion, we looked very, very cagey, very, very rocky. But
I never said to keep Katanic. I never said that.
No, I'm not talking about you. I said you might agree with this, but I know people that have said this to me. I just earlier I was with my friend who was telling me this. But some people are of this belief. I'd argue that there have been some times under the Advocaat where we have looked significantly better than any time since maybe 2019, maybe even before that. So I'll give you an example. Against the UAE, when Emir came in, for that 25-minute spell, Iraq looked like a very good team. We actually passed them.
What was the score of that? What was the score?
Granted, it was 2-2.
I don't know. What was the score when he came in?
It was 1-0. We were losing. Emir turned the game around.
So what happens in any game of football with a team when they're up 1-0? What and the team that's chasing the game, what ends up happening?
As in what you try to turn the game around.
Throw numbers forward. The team progresses back, right? They're trying to protect the lead. Now all of a sudden we have some momentum. Let's talk about the first half of that game.
Yeah, it was disgraceful. I was at the stadium.
This is the thing that kills me is Syria game against Syria. Slow, lethargic, nothing. 0-0. UAE should have been.
Lebanon was the 0-0.
What was Syria first half?
Oh yeah, sorry, first half. Yeah.
Okay, Lebanon 0-0 first half. UAE down 1-0 first half. Korea first half in Korea, I thought it was a very good defensive game. They should have scored from the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at all these first half, maybe it's something. First half we're afraid. We're afraid to go out and punch and get the first goal. And now second half, they're going to come at us. The game opens up. Now we can find the second. Instead, we go opposite. We protect. We're afraid. We get scored on. And then you say, well, we're going to throw everybody. Yeah, once you start throwing everybody and you're playing 1v1 in the back, you're going to have more of the ball. You're going to have possession. But this is my thing. The way of football is you can't go into these games afraid. We went into the Syria game afraid. We went into a Syria game afraid. I'm not saying against Iran and Korea, those teams are well managed. They're well, equipped with the quality of the players. Okay, now you have to be smart. You have to choose your moments when you defend, and you have to attack. You can't defend for 90 minutes. I don't care what happens.
Right. So now you're talking about the kind of the mentality of the player and the mentality of the team.
Go back to your question. Sorry, go back to your question about you feel that there's been some moments where Iraq has played.
Okay. So in terms of when we've actually played well, so you've mentioned the first half. Fine. There have been instances in the first half where we have looked very poor. I completely agree with that. But there have been times in the second half where we've actually played some expansive football. So the UAE was one game. Then we looked at, for example, against Syria. Don't you think in the second half we actually looked all right? We were trying to create chances. We were actually playing to some degree passing football, which is something we've not seen in a long time, Justin. Don't you think that's a step in the right direction, or do you think that's irrelevant because the results haven't been going our way.
What was Syria's formation?
If I'm not
4-4-2.
mistaken, they were playing 4-4-2, weren't they?
Okay. Where was their press? Where did they press from? In our half? In their half?
It was a weak press from. I was at the stadium, so obviously I'll get a different perspective from you guys. But it didn't look like they were pressing very high.
So I watched the game. They didn't go and press Ahmed Ibrahim until he reached around the center circle.
Yeah.
So I could put you out there on the field, and with no pressure, you're gonna make a pass to your right or left. And if some pressure comes, you're gonna hit it long. No?
Yeah.
Now, that's the thing is that we say, oh, we kept the ball. It was good. We had some possession. It looked good. But look at what the opponent did, right? This is the way we have to think about football is we're just saying, oh, we kept the ball. But what did we do when we had the ball? I didn't see us breaking through lines, getting through, numbers into the box, getting our outside backs down to the end line, crosses a couple times.
I mean, Ali had some very good chances. There was the 2 instances where Bashar played them in.
Ali had him. Look at how Ali had his chances. That was off his athleticism, his sniff. You had France had a great cross. A little combination. That there were some good moments. I'm not taking away, but I want you guys to see football in a way of, okay, if the team isn't very strong and they're just sitting back, of course you're going to have time to play, but I want to see us play through. We have the quality to play through them like some of these chances. That's what we should be doing. Look at how Korea plays. Ba, 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 boom, to the other side. Ba, 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 through, in, back, get it, end line, cross. We're long. When teams suppress us, we go to one side, back, we clip it long. Fortunately, we got Mimi, Ali, and Ayman, all big strikers that, can hold some of it up. But it's just the way it's, for me with Radi there, I felt it was different. There was tactics, there was more of the ball on the ground, movement without the ball. And, in the Asia Cup, I thought it was, obviously that was 6 years ago, but it's still a lot of the same guys. It's still.
So, but look, you're saying yourself it's the same guys. Yeah, you would have thought if it's the same players, now they have more experience, they're a bit more wise, they're a bit more clued up, they should know how to handle the pressure. We're actually seeing a decline in the quality of their play. Aren't the players partially responsible for this? It can't surely be all on the manager and the tactics.
Of course. And I don't want to sit here and come at Advocaat and Petrovic. Obviously, we aren't on the same wavelength and we don't see it eye to eye, obviously, because of how they handled my situation. But it's not, the managers can only do so much, right? And then it comes down to the players' execution. But like I said before, if you give players, if you put them in the best positions to shine and in the best group possible out there, there's going to be better quality. There's going to be better performances. There's going to be better, what's the word I'm looking for? More calmness, right? If you put me out there, I'm calm on the ball. I can keep it, right? If you put somebody else in my position that goes negative every time, what happens? More pressure on the defense, more pressure on the defense, more pressure on the defense. Everyone says, oh, Ahmed Ibrahim, he kicks it all the time. Well, how many options does he have half the time? Every time he plays in, it goes back to him, right? So a cue for a team that's the defending, as it goes into the middle, they're ready to press. As it goes back, that's their cue not to step forward a little bit. So this is the thing is when it gets into guys into the middle, there's certain guys like Ami, Bashar, Amir, Jawan, from what I've seen, these guys can turn and drive at the opponent. Now what happens is the defensive line goes all the way back. We've broke pressure. Now our defensive line comes forward. Now we've shrunk the space. And now we're not playing this chasing game. And it's these little things that it's when I watch the game, this is how I watch the game and I analyze it, is we don't have the courage with certain players playing. We're too defensive. You should play. We have, I don't know, the new guy in the middle. He's pretty good, but with you have Amjad
15,
Atwan. Yeah, Amjad Atwan's in there with another guy.
15,
I don't know,
Aboud.
Abu. Two very similar players, right? So they're two very defensive guys, big engines, like to tackle. But that's the thing. If you go those two, and then who's in front of them? Okay, Bashar. Okay, well, Bashar is going to go anywhere, right? So if he sometimes drifts to the left, who's in the middle with them? One of those guys they're not turning and driving and going to play the ball to Ali or going to play the ball to the right winger. So we're two different. So we are playing with 2 6s. They're very defensive. Bashar has the free roam to go wherever. Well, if he goes in counters and he loses the ball, who's in the middle now? If we win it again, these guys aren't going to dribble by or make forward passes. They're very side to side, keep it. They're going to tackle to win the ball back. So this is what I'm trying to get at is you got to put more quality out there. You got to get more guys that are on the ball that are okay with pressure to play it back. They can get it. They can turn. They can switch the field. Overload on the right. Overload on the left. That's what these countries do because players are playing in Europe. They understand tactics. It's not about just the bite. If you want to compare me to Amjad Atwan, he's going to run more. He's going to tackle more. But I'm more calm. I can find passes. That's my gift. That's his gift. Right? So you have to find the balance. You can't have all guys do one thing and then you have 1 or 2 guys that have very big quality and expect us to go and create chances. Everyone, gets on Bashar all the time. Well, his legs probably get tired after he goes on 40-yard dribbles and beats 1, 2 guys in the 60, 70th minute. He's the only one doing it. But imagine if I was doing it, that he was doing it. Then Ahmed Yassin or Abai, whatever, Abai. And then now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different guys, Jalwan and Amir. And then you have Mohamed or Ali Adnan in France or the other right back, what's his name?
Alam Howie.
Howie. Now it's like guys that are combining up the field. Now we can breathe. We can rest in their half. It's no counter game. It's a tactical game. And when you play on the international level, you have to understand it is a very high pressured environment. One mistake, you lose, your country's out. It's not you get another game in 3 days. You get another game on the next weekend. You got 2 games, you're there, you play, and you leave for a month or 2 months. So you have to put the guys that understand what pressure is like. You have to put the guys that understand when the ball's at their feet, they're not afraid. Okay, I might have lost the ball a couple of times in the Iran game. Was I afraid to take people on? No. We had to go attack. We're losing. I could have been 100% passing if I played backwards every single time. No. I'm trying to create. I'm trying to find something. I'm trying to get something for us. That is what is lacking is that you can't, for me, in my opinion, you only have Bashar that can really get out of anything. And I see that's where there's issues. And
yeah. I think to that point, like as well, like on Bashar, we saw that like highlighted against Syria, in my opinion. Like it was the chance creation was all up to him. It was only him. Like it was him trying to set up Ali Hamadi, and that was all our chances. It's just him making dribbling runs from midfield or making passes from like catching it at the center line, midfield, and doing everything up to him. So like when all the pressure is on one player, it's not easy to create something. Like as you're saying, Justin, in a high pressure game, high pressure environment, like and everything is on one player or 2 players, it's not enough.
So Justin, I'm going to ask you 2 separate questions here. First question is like regarding all this talk of pressure and playing for the Iraqi national team. Sometimes certain players find it difficult to cope with this pressure. Where does this pressure come from, and why is it affecting Iraqi players so much more than other players from different nationalities? Is it the fans, the way they respond, or where is this coming from?
Well, the fans are incredible. The people of Iraq are incredible. They're so passionate. And that's what happens when you have a country that loves the national team so much. It comes with pressure. right? And it's those who are willing to embrace it and understand that I will invite the pressure, knowing how big of the stage. Pressure is a privilege, right? There's only certain moments you get this pressure where you can become a hero or a villain, right? Depending on the performances or the results of the game. So you want the pressure, you need the pressure for these big games, right? And that's what separates a small country from a big country, is the players. How can they endure it? And as well as coaches, right? Coaches, sometimes they overthink things because of the pressure of the game. If it's a friendly, they put out a lineup, no problem. When it's a game, right? The coach has to get it right. He has to understand the tactics. He has to understand the opponent. He has to put out the right personnel, to succeed or give a chance to succeed. And so it's going to come with the country. Whenever you play for your country, it's not you, it's not the 11 on the field, it's not the 30-man roster, it's not the coaching staff, it's 50 million, right? How do you invite that into your life and into that moment and excel? And I think it's a lot of guys that are comfortable with it and understand it and will go out and won't be afraid to make mistakes. And that's, for me, is number one. Is I will play in any game and I will play the same way. And I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I made many times in the Iran game. I lost the ball. I tried, but I wasn't afraid. I went back and I tried to do it again and again because I wanted to create something, right? And take away that game. Maybe my last games in March of 2019, was it, before one of my last few games against Syria in Basra, we won the little tournament or whatever. I still did the same thing I did in that game. It just worked. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail, because I'm not going to change who I am as a player if there's no pressure, if there's a lot of pressure. That's what got me here. I have to be true to who I am and how I play. Other guys, they get into these games is, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to kick it long, and I'm not going to try and make that pass through the line as a defender. As a midfielder, I'm not going to try and turn under pressure and drive forward to get to goal. I'm going to make a one-touch back to my left back, and then he can see the field and he can make the next pass. Well, that's reading a child book. Everyone's going to know what's going to happen. We're going to go in here, it's going to go back, we're going to go long, and we're going to fight, and hopefully it bounces our way. No. How do you invite the pressure and play the proper way, right? And understand there's going to be times where there's two guys around you in the middle of the field, and you have to be aware and know that. So it comes with experience. It comes with where guys play, the level, and just the ability to swallow that pressure and use it in a positive way. And that's why you have practice players who are so good in training, and it gets to the field and they shrink up and they can't handle it. And you have guys that maybe in practice, there's not much pressure. I'm just going to be there and get my legs ready. And when the game comes, they're men, they shine, they have a big presence. And you look at Amir, a young kid, big penalty, he steps up, no problem. That's a person, that's a man, that's someone who's not afraid of the pressure.
Do you think there's a difference, and please be brutally honest here, is there a difference in terms of how local players handle pressure compared to the expat players? And where do you think this comes from, if it does exist?
I don't know. For me, I just think, and here's my thing about the local player, and I hate dividing them, but and for the context of talking, we always have to divide them, right? We have to call them the locals, the expats. I would love more than anything if we had 40 local players playing outside, because I want them to understand. And some of them, it's not their fault. I want them to understand, or to be coached by proper coaches, proper environment, proper training, proper physios, proper travel, you know, because it's a way when you play in big clubs and you play in Europe or MLS, everything's done at a very, very high level, right? My team, I have guys at Slovakian national team, Croatia, USA, right? I have these guys playing in many different, right? So I'm competing with the best of the best. And in MLS, you got Carlos Vela, Chicharito. You can go down the list. Nani, you can go down the list of big players that are playing, and I'm competing with players from around the world, right? So it opens my eyes. I have to be at a different level. As I get older, I got to get smarter, right? So when the local players are the Iraqi league, compared to any league in the world, right? It's 99% Iraqis. The 1% is you get a random Syrian player or a Brazilian player, but 99% of the players are Iraqi, right?
Yeah.
So they all know, they're all driving in the same lane. They all know football one way. They never played with two guys from Argentina and a guy from Croatia, right? They play a different way. These guys Argentinians are very talented, very physical, but very technical. They never played with guys from Spain, So your mind, you have to change your way of thinking and playing the game when you have players from around the world. But if you put me in Iraq, in the Iraqi league, even though I'm Iraqi, I've lived my whole life out here, I'm going to play it differently. So think about it. Give me every player that's left the Iraqi league to go to different leagues. How have they done?
Okay, I was going to actually ask you this. So if we look at, for example, Mimi, who went to Portugal and let's say didn't do particularly well. Ala Abbas went to Portugal. If we look at, for example, and Hassan helped me out here, Bashar, who went to Iran, Safa that went to Russia.
Bargham was in Turkey as well.
Bargham went to Turkey, as did Ali Fahd, amongst others. Nashid Akram went to FC20, but that's the years prior.
Still, so any more guys? You have Imam went to Egypt or whatever.
Yeah,
came back.
You had like Saad Abdul Amir who went to Saudi Arabia, for example. Ahmed Ibrahim, they went to Saudi.
So here's my thing. How well do they do when they leave the Iraqi league?
I think fair to say mixed results.
So it's difficult.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what is, you ask them, how is the level? You should ask them all. How is the level? How's the professionalism?
Sharko is another one, by the way. Sorry, just adding Sharko as well. To Sharko Karim.
Yeah. But he started outside. Did he start the Iraqi league first?
No, he started in the Iraqi league and he went at a very young age.
Switzerland.
Switzerland and Austria. Another player that found it difficult.
So that's why I want, when we're judged, or if Ali Adnan comes out and he says, oh, well, most of the expats aren't better than the local players. Interesting. Because when most of the local players go and play in these different leagues, Osama Rashid can't sniff any minutes for the national team, but he captained Santa Clara in Portugal and was one of the best players in the league. So explain to me, is it when he comes to the national team that he can't be parallel, or is it he's a shit player? He's not a shit player. Excuse my language. He's not a bad player. But when you get into an environment that is going 100 miles an hour, training, no rhyme, no reason, balls in the air, guys are like they're running around, no position, no awareness, no calmness, he doesn't stand out. It's similar with me sometimes. Two very good guys on the ball, calm, can breathe and play at the same time, right? So this is what is the thought process when we get to the national team is, oh, he's not good enough. In a couple games, he didn't do that well. Well, one, who did he play alongside with? Two, because of one bad game, that's it. There's some guys, they get 40 games. You know, they're always in the mix.
Some guys get 130. Like
that is the issue. If I've ever seen one, is that's why you need to put a game where Osama is next to Amir and Jilwan, 3 guys in the middle. They're all on the same wavelength, right? You can't put Osama with Amjad Atwan and maybe Assad Abdul because they're different. He's never played with them. He doesn't. They see football the Arab way. He sees it the European way. He's a Dutch Iraqi that played in Portugal and in Holland. So we have to, like I said earlier, you have to put guys in their best positions to succeed. You have to understand who's around them. When me and Ali Adnan played together on the left, we did very well in a lot of games. But why? He played in MLS. He played in Europe. I play out here. It's the European way. We're on the same wavelength. You understand?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So would you say you had, what kind of difficulties when playing with, let's say, other than Ali Adnan on the left, like when playing with Dhurgham or other players? What did you notice was the biggest issues you faced as a player?
Dhurgham, I think, is a very good player. Like, he's very technical. He can get up and up. But the awareness, the IQ of football, you know, that is where it lacks, not with a guy playing with me. It's the general consensus of how you play, the IQ. That's why other countries are going up, because they're adapting to what football is in the world.
Justin, define for me in very basic terms so everyone listening understands. What do you mean by IQ? Because I know what you're talking about here. Hassan does as well. But I want everyone watching this to know exactly what you mean here.
The intelligence, your level of intelligence, right, for the way the game is played. Right? There's the best teams in the world. You look at Belgium, right? We take Belgium. All of their players, their level of intelligence for football is very high. Their movement without the ball, their movement with the ball, the way they attack in numbers, the way they defend in numbers, the way that they're balanced
across the pitch,
the way they move, right? That is the IQ. It's not when the one guy has the ball and 2 guys come next to him and they want to make short passes and then turn and switch the field. No, anybody can do that. It's the spacing. How do you move without the ball? How do you get in behind the opponent? How do you overload on one side? How do you know you want to get to the other side when you have the ball on the right side? It's the intelligence, but it's playing in the biggest leagues, the best leagues in the world with the best players. You have to rise or you're never going to play it. So when I go back to my thing with the Iraqi players all playing in the Iraqi league and they're all Iraqi, it's the same level across every player. Everyone plays the exact same. Everybody. It's just who's going to get more better players in the Iraqi league is going to win. So that's where you need to have games, friendly games. You need to create. I would love to see a lineup of all foreign players. And then, you know what, if you want to go back and have a game of all local players, go ahead, see the levels, see the way football is played. Take away the results, because then what you do is now you've defined a way of Iraq national team, how they play. Because if you ask me today, how does Iraq national team play? I couldn't tell you. I think we want to be a team. We have some technical players that want to keep it and play it, but that's maybe a quarter. And then you have a quarter that want to run, and they'll run through anything like their life depends on it. And that's a good quality to have. And then you have guys that they just want to kick it long. The goalie wants to get it and hit it up the field right away. He's not aware. Maybe guys are tired. We are under it. That's the level of intelligence. Some players, we've been chasing, we win it. You don't go and try and play a long ball because the forward's asking for it. You breathe, you see the body language of my teammates. Okay, let me go back to the goalie. Goalie puts his foot on it. Let my guys 5, 6, 7 seconds. Okay, now everybody's in positions, everyone's leveled, everyone's controlled. Okay, now we start playing again. This is what I'm talking about. It's more than with the ball, without the ball. It's body language, communication, talking, not being so negative, positive. That's what I want to see. I want to see that in training. It's positive. I want to see it's too tight. We have to match perfectly with every single polo we wear. If we don't, we get crucified. If we show up 1 minute late to breakfast, it's a massive deal. You know, it's like you're on eggshells. I want it to be a little relaxed, even though it's a big game. It's a relaxed around the group. Everyone loves each other. Everyone's hanging out, playing tauli, playing, you know, conca, I don't know, card games, whatever the case may be, right? And that will translate onto the field. I promise you. You have a country of guys that are together and having fun and laughing, and maybe you go to the mall together, or maybe we, you know, go see a show, whatever the case may be. Then you come back and relax, instead of, oh, you're wearing Nike socks. No, you have to be wearing Umbro socks. If you need to change those right now. This is minute situations that you're creating a big deal. What creates animosity, creates issues. Can't have that.
Justin, you talk about like you'd love to see a team made of expats. So this is the first time ever that we've seen 6 expats selected. I'm going to ask you from this 2 questions. First of all, this whole idea of there being a cap on expats, do you believe this to be true, or do you like, is there anything that's made you suspect that there has previously been a cap on expats?
I only speak on what I can say or how I feel. I won't speak on things that maybe people believe in, because I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But like, for me, until I hear it from the president, you know, it's something that maybe people have a theory of, but I can't speak on that. It's not my.
Let's move on to the next question then. My other question was regarding the 6 expats that were in the squad. Unfortunately, we didn't see Jilwan make any appearances, so we'll focus on the 5 that actually had game time. What have you made of, one by one, talk me through what you made of Emir so far, what you made of France over the last 2 games, Mohannad, Jazz, what you made of Rebin over the last couple of games, and Ali Al-Hamadi.
I mean, I think they've all done pretty well. If I look at Mohamed Jazz, first 25 minutes of the Korea game, you can answer, I can answer. I thought he was very good, no?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the moment he came off, the whole game changed. Rebin, Ahmed,
clear difference.
They looked very comfortable when he was there, and they looked assured. And I think as soon as he came off,
for me, Rabin, in my opinion, maybe I'm biased, I think he's our best center back on the national team, hands down.
Yeah, there we go. Buriram, Rabin.
That is his IQ, his calmness on the ball, the ability to make difficult passes, strong, athletic. So for me, he's very good. I thought France played okay. I think he was good at times in the attack. I think it's one of those, he's getting his feet wet with the national team. He had very good moments. He had some moments that it was okay. And, you know, he can say the same, but one that is promising, you know, his crossing ability is very, very good. And the more games he plays, he's played how many games for Iraq?
I think that those was 2 full 90 minutes, maybe.
It's a handful either way.
Yeah, he came off in the second game.
I think it will only get better, but I thought it was a good 2 games. Amir, probably the highlight of the group, just his impact off the bench, his game in Korea. It's been good. It's just when he plays in that deeper role, his ability to get it, find, with the good left foot, find the left side of the field, the right side of the field. So he has a good understanding of football and calmness on the ball, which he can find the players higher up the field to create chances. And then I think Ali, the first game in Syria, I thought he was the best player on the field in that game. He brings a different presence. He's very strong, very fast, good at holding the ball, and he has a good, knack for the goal where he can, Syria wants to play it back. He jumps it, reads it, almost creates a chance from it. So promising from 18, 19-year-old who had his first 2 games. So I think overall, all the guys did very well. I think it's not like we're seeing the level drop with those players, which was promising. And now how do you get a more experience and be leaders of the national team? So I thought they did well.
So one of the original questions I was going to ask you, but we kind of diverted away from it. What would have been your starting 11 against Syria, for example? Now, I had a lot of issues with the starting 11. I thought it was very defensive. Thought it was very, very cowardly on behalf of the manager to play defensive 5 with Jaaz, Mustafa Nazem, Rabin, Ahmed Ibrahim, and Franz at the back, and then playing 3 defensive midfielders, and Ahmed Fadel, Mohamed Aboud, and then Amjad Adwan. I think that was a very cowardly approach to the game. What would have been your starting 11? And now this is Coach Meram, not the player.
Yeah, I'd go Franz, Ahmed Ibrahim, Rabin, Mohamed, Jaz. I would go Amjad Atwan as the lone 6, one with the big engine, one with the ability to cover ground, win tackles, give the ball to his playmakers. Your job's done. You don't play make. You win the ball back. You're the soldier on the field that fights for every ball, and he's very good at it. I put him by himself, and I would go with Amir and Jilwan or Bashar. I will have to see how I would want to just those 2 for now in front of him. And then if I go with, actually, I would probably go with Amir and Jilwan in the middle. I would put Bashar out left, Ali Hamadi up top, and I go with Mohammed Qasim. All right. Yeah. Being a lefty, he's inverted coming inside. Bashar inverted on the left side, right-footed coming in on the inside, gives the width for Mohammed and Franz, who are very good attacking fullbacks up the field. And now what you've done is you've established higher players up the field. Mohammed, Franz, Mohammed Qasim, Bashar coming inside. Now you have 2 guys, creative guys in the middle with Jalwan and Amir. And then you have Ali up top. Now, if the play gets broken, you have your 2 center backs, but it almost becomes a third with Amjad Atwan, right? So now you have 3, almost like playing in a back 5 because you're going to drop the 6 down in between them. So now center backs go wide, drop the 6 in between them, and now you've created strength with your back line while you're attacking, and you have a bunch of numbers going forward and guys all good on the ball. That's how I would play, and I guarantee you it's 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, the worst bit is I fully agree with you, and I know for a fact what you're saying is the truth, and it's correct. And that's what makes it frustrating, because like you said earlier, it's no disrespect to the other countries, but we're playing Syria, we're playing Lebanon, we're playing a weak Emirat. These are games that we have the potential to be taking them by the neck and making them play defensive whilst we are the team that's trying to attack and get 3 goals or 4 goals or whatever. Again,
nothing against Syria. They're a good team. They're not good. But if you go watch when we played them in 2019, it's a good game, but it's very attack minded. If I go watch this game, it's very defensive minded. It's very like, I understand what's at stake, but we're at home. We need 3 points. We go and attack. The best way to defend, you know what they say?
Attack.
Is to attack.
exactly. Right. Without taking too much of your time, I'll throw one more question at you, Justin, because you've given us some amazing information so far, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Do you feel that the changes we're seeing now fit into this plan that Yunus Mahmoud has, which is forget this existing World Cup run? This is not important. We should be focusing on World Cup 2030. What do you make of this plan, and do you think we are heading in the right direction with, for example, young players from the Olympic team coming in like Muntadhar and Hassan Jabbar, or for example, the idea of bringing Ali Al-Hamadi in, maybe Zidane Iqbal, amongst others? Do you think this is we're seeing this actually manifest, or do you think even that's a bit of a myth?
You know, I would love to be part of like the committee one day, because you can't just wake up one day and say, yeah, we're gonna focus now on World Cup 2030. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? Right now, there's still a chance to get third, so you have to think of the present, the shortcoming, and the future. So you have to break it down, and you have to understand is, okay, if I want to focus on 2030, let's say this is what Yunus said, how do I get there? How do I build a structure for the next 9 years?
Okay, you tell us. What would you do?
Okay. The first thing I'm doing is the best players in the Iraqi league, the best players. Every club, the federation has to support the club. You have to get the best players into different leagues around the world. You have to. And it was something Qatar did, I believe.
Yeah.
Send a bunch of their players to play in different leagues.
Yeah.
We need to build the youth in a way that the young up and coming players that are going to be the future for 2030, right? No Humam, no Ali, no me, no Rabin, no Ahmed Ibrahim, none of these players. We're not going to be here 9 years for that.
You never know with our guys, but yeah.
You have to now start to develop a plan with the federation helping the Iraqi teams in the league to get the best young players into different leagues.
But somebody might argue that when our best players have gone there, they've not got any games, or they've not done pretty well. So what's the point?
You gotta, maybe they're going to, that's a good point. But at the same time,
do you think the experience of going there alone is worth it, even if they don't play?
Yes and no. You always have to play the games, but it's like a double-edged sword. You have to go and get games to get a feel, but you also have to be part of the environment. It's two things. But if you go and you don't get games, confidence goes down. But here's the thing: you can always come back, right?
Yeah.
They're always. And there's like different levels of European football. Like there's like, you can go to different leagues.
Why don't you send them to the division or second division in Sweden? Get a feel. Be part of.
Get out of the comfort zone.
Part of something where the team's facing relegation and they got to get promoted. Real pressure. That changes a person. That changes a person's mentality for their future, right? The guys are fearing it now. The guys playing in Sweden, like Ori Bru's already dropped, right? That's a disappointment. They feel that.
Ostersons with the Rawan, I mean.
So you got to get those guys going. You have to build a better infrastructure for the players in their leagues, right? The physical therapists, the trainers, the resources that they have. If you look at all these other leagues, they're doing that with their teams in their country, right? If you look at the J League or the K League, you're seeing the infrastructure is getting better and better with these club teams in their countries. So what does that do? If the club teams in Korea are starting to get better, they're producing better talent, which can represent their country, and they can play in different leagues. If our infrastructure in the Iraqi league is very bad, it's going to be the same cycle every single 4 years. It's going to be the same guys playing in the same league, same way of football, never changing.
Same IQ.
You're always going to get a few outliers. The Ali Adnan, the Bashar, Mimi, I think has done very well. Like, you're going to get the few outliers, but like, imagine, this is my goal. And I want to see 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 locals playing, whether it's in Qatar, UAE, Saudi, Portugal, Greece,
Turkey.
Sweden, MLS, Turkey. You want to see him just make the jump. Then they realize, if you ask Safa today, how's the level in Russia? His eyes are going to open. So tell him, we play in those leagues every week. You come to MLS, ask Ali Adnan how MLS is. He played it. It ain't easy. It's difficult. You're playing against guys all over the world. It makes you change and adapt to the way football is supposed to be played. Training is so much more intense at our club teams, and ask all of the guys playing in Europe than with the national team. National team is unorganized. Guys are doing whatever they want, tackling, kicking it, running, no shape, no rhyme, no reason. Here, everything's structured, planned, boom, 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 boom. That's what I want to see. And that's, so if we have a 9-year window, if that's the goal, if that's the real goal the Federation wants, okay, well, you got to work backwards, right? You have to create the plan of this is what I want, okay, in 2020. Then by 2018, I need this level. I need this, whatever this is, 50 players playing abroad, on loan, whatever the case may be. By 2016, after this World Cup, when we don't advance, the infrastructure has got to change with the club teams. We have to create something different. We have to put more money into it if we want. So you have to work backwards. You can't just have a plan and say, oh, we're building. Well, how are you building? What are you doing to improve it? Because clearly, we've never had a team full of expats, right? Because imagine this. You bring a team full of expats. What does that do to the local players' mind?
Makes them work hard in terms of competition. It makes them see that there's a different way of thinking, etc.
How many countries, every country in the top 90, how many of them are lopsided? 80% locals, 20% foreign players.
Only the weaker countries. I reckon if you go to top 25, top 30, they're all expats, no?
Top 50,
yeah.
Top 60.
Yeah.
So think about why. Why are we doing it differently?
Why do you think?
I don't know. That's the $1 million question. Why? Why can't we bring us all in? See the way it's played. A few local players. See the way it's played. See the way we hold ourselves. See the way we train. Because for me, it's a real level competition. Real level of competition. And real guys fighting and getting your chance. And you need to give guys more chances. All across the board. Local player, expert player, you got to give guys more chances. You have to have more friendlies. You can't keep the same guys there all the time. And for me, I'm doing games in Sweden. I'm doing a game in Turkey, and I'm putting all European-based players. How do you guys handle it? Maybe we're not good enough, all of us. Maybe we need a little bit of a Anjar Atwan, or we need a little bit of a Ahmed Ibrahim to really bite and give us a little something. But maybe you see wow, the level's different. The movement is different. The composure is different. So until it's like you never tried it, you never know. Right? So you almost have to like put yourself out there and say, you know what? We're going to do this. It's a friendly game. There's nothing against no player in Iraq, but this is what we want to see. And then if it's very good and it's lacking a couple things, now you have something to compare. Right now, we're just throwing darts blind. Oh, this is guy, he had 2 good games in Iraqi League. I'm calling him in, never had a cap, and I'm going to start him. Well, throw it. How did he do? Oh, he did good. Okay, he's there for the next 10 games. Oh, this European-based player doesn't speak much Arabic. He comes in, throw him in. He was okay. Done. Next. Hi. Like, this isn't how you build a player. You can't give him one moment. And I look at, I obviously I live in America, so I watch the U.S. national team. I'm going to give a prime example. This guy named Walker Zimmerman, he was a center back. The last games, he wasn't called in. And then one guy got injured, they brought him in. These next game, because he didn't maybe have the, so he was on the outside. Coach still believed in him. Brought me in for these 2 games. He was best player in the Mexico-USA game. Confidence, always having them part of the national team, no matter if they had 1 bad game or 2. They understand that the level, the ceiling is high. The ability is high. I need to bring the best out of the player. And now he's the starting center back. And it happens like this in football. There's always going to be a change like this. Mohamed Jaiz comes in, all of a sudden, he's the bright left back right now. It's been Ali Adnan for how long? And now there's proper competition. Well, with proper competition, what it means? Ali Adnan has to raise his level, and Mohamed has to keep his level. We should do that all across every position.
Justin, honestly, I can sit and talk to you about football, just try to pick at your brain and get a better understanding. And I'm always learning, just listening to you, whether it's on our channel or on your Twitter or whatever. So thank you so much for your time. You said it before, we've been trying to arrange this for the longest time possible. And it's a real honor to have you on our show. And thank you very much for joining us. Hassan, thank you as well. Hassan, if we want to find you and our fans want to get in touch, where can they find you?
Yeah, primarily Twitter, Hassan O_1193. Yeah, just generally always a pleasure being here. Always a pleasure talking about Iraqi football, whatever's going on. And thanks a lot, Justin. Having a chance to talk to you about it, it's like stepping back a little bit just to give you, just to hear you talk a little bit. So thanks a lot for your time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Show the shirt. Show the shirt, Hassan. Tell the story to the fans.
Man. This was from a few years ago, several years ago, actually. I don't even remember. It's been blurred. But after post-game, Columbus Crew versus Montreal Impact in Montreal. Waited outside after the game. Waiting for you to come out of the change room, basically get on the bus. And you didn't have to do it, but you came out, signed our shirts. We got a picture. Just amazing.
That's true love.
Love it. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, I speak a lot about tactics, and I'm very proud and for Iraq and want to see the best. So sometimes I speak and go on rants, but it's because I care and I love the country and I love the people. So I just hope we can have change for the better to bring happiness for Iraq, and we can make some headlines one day, and that's our dream. And hopefully there's if I'm not playing with the national team anymore, hopefully there's a way I can help from the management side or on the coaching side one day, and that'd be a dream. So
Justin, thank you once more. If you guys want to get in touch with me personally, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook and on Twitter. Our is @IraqFootballPod. Justin, just one final thing. Good luck with your coaching. I know you've got your test very, very soon. Wish you all the best. who knows, maybe after a couple of months, years, we'll see you as the manager of the Iraqi national team.
Inshallah, Habibi. One day, one day.
All the best. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Yalla ya Iraq.